Newton believed that he had found a proof. In his wonderful, and with his towering genius, he uncovered the solar system. Would later be disproved, but he got that. It was an extraordinary feat of genius. And he said, you know, look, the intricacy of this system shows that there must have been an intelligence starting this off. For Newton, God was essential to his science. It was fine, you know, you couldn't have started unless there had been an intelligence there. So finally, says Newton, science is proving what the Bible has always told us. There is an intelligence, and by deduction we can see that this is good and wise, and here I quote, and clearly very well versed in mechanics and geometry. This is a sort of blown-up version of Newton himself. Newton's attempt to relate modern thought to the faith was good and fine, but it wouldn't have mattered a bit if first the Enlightenment philosophers, and secondly the evangelical Christians took Newton's God and made it central to their way of thinking. And we lost the old apophatic methods of thought. And so when Darwin came along, people were thrown into a loop and were left without recourse. One of the problems that happened at about the time of Newton, as in here, and this is an English thing, but bear with me, our word faith changed its meaning. Today when we talk about faith or religion, the first thing we ask about somebody is, does he or she believe? Is he a believer? As though accepting a whole list of propositions was one of the chief things that the religious people do. But the word belief in Old English, medieval English, it meant to love. To commit yourself to something that you love, believer. It was related to the German Liebe, the Latin libido. Accepta my believer, says Chaucer's knight to his lady, means accept my trust, my loyalty, my commitment. So when, exactly 400 years ago, the English translators of the Bible in England came to the Greek word pistis, in the Greek New Testament, they translated it quite correctly as believer, belief. But pistis doesn't mean accepting a whole lot of doctrines. In the New Testament, Jesus is always asking for faith. Pistis. And he says, do you believe? And the person replies, pisteo, I believe, help thou my unbelief. And Jesus is asking for commitment. He's asking for people who will sell all they have and give to the poor, who will live rough, who will dedicate themselves heart and soul to the coming of the kingdom, in which rich and poor will sit down together in the kingdom of God. In Latin, pistis, pisteo, became credo, when St. Jerome translated it into Latin. Credo comes from cordo, I give my heart. And in the early church, when people were baptized, it was a very dramatic ceremony. It wasn't just sprinkling little things, a little bit of water on the head of a baby. It was a big commitment, and often in the early church, it was dangerous to commit yourself to Christianity, because Christians were persecuted. So they would be plunged into the baptismal water, and you'd be asked, do you believe, do you have pistis in God the Father? And the person would come up spluttering and crying, pisteo, or credo. Do you have pistis in the Son? Pisteo. Now, they weren't sitting on the side of that baptismal pool saying, well, having looked at all the evidence, I can now conclude quite logically and rationally. This was an act of commitment. But in the late 17th century, pistis began, it's first in the scientific and philosophical world, to mean the acceptance of a proposition, a rather odd and unbelievable proposition. And the Americans still use it in that sense when they say, I believe it will rain today, meaning there's a considerable doubt about it. And this has skewed the whole business of faith. Because as Jews and Muslims have always known, and Buddhists and Hindus and the Confucians all know, you pissed it that the commitment of faith comes from doing things. Religion is a practical form of practical knowledge. It's like driving or swimming. You can't learn to swim simply by sitting on the side of the pool and reading a book about how to do it. You've got to get in to the pool, start splashing around, sinking, and learning how to float. You acquire the knack. We've lost that knack in the Western world, where we have a good sort of sense that first you prove a proposition and then you apply it. Or driving, you've got to get into the car, manipulate the vehicles. And similarly, in the Islamic world, the great 5 pillars are about doing things, fasting in Ramadan, giving alms, praying, the action of praying 5 times a day, which requires you constantly to find your orientation, find the direction of Mecca, and ask yourself the exercise, asking you subliminally to say, where am I going? Where am I heading? And make that interruption of your day and that prostration of yourself. Even the Shahada, the so-called declaration of faith, it's not a creed. Shahada, it means I bear witness to the fact that there's one God and that Muhammad is his prophet, which means that I bear witness in everything that I am and all that I do that there is no higher reality for me but God. No other reality, no other thing like ambition or an ideology like nationalism can come between me and the divine. So, and even revelation. Revelation is the taking of something that we thought was hidden from us. It means, the word means unveiling and seeing what wasn't there before. But if you look at the great rabbis who would look at the Bible, and great Rabbi Akiva would find something new in it. When you went to the text, you found something new, not picked around to see what it had originally meant. Religion is doing. Religion is not about accepting a whole lot of doctrines verbatim. It's about also recognizing the absolute mystery of the divine, but that we can apprehend. But which, when we realize that when we speak about God, we're going beyond what words and thoughts can do. Thank you very much.